Shalom. This week's Torah portion, VaYeshev, begins the story of Joseph. It's sometimes referred to as the Joseph novella because the last 6 or so chapters of the book of Genesis is all the story of Joseph. So in this Torah portion, we meet Joseph for the first time as he's 17 years old. And he's not such a great 17-year-old. He ends up running afoul of his brothers and ends up as a slave in Egypt in the household of Potiphar, who's an official of the Pharaoh's court. And he ultimately becomes essentially the steward of Potiphar's household. Everything he seems to do comes to good, and Potiphar's household prospers. And even Potiphar the Egyptian notices that God is with Joseph because God's name is always on Joseph's lips, and this must be why he's prospering. So we see that there are people whose intimacy with God and whose belief actually helps them get their task in life done. Which puts me in memory of a story of the Baal Shem Tov. So one day there was a Rabbi Yitzchak of Dorohovich who heard that the Baal Shem Tov was making cameos, which are amulets that many times contain a name of God inside of them, and that the Baal Shem Tov's amulets were producing cures and other miracles. And Reb Yitzchak was very upset about this, kind of distressed, because he didn't feel that this was a proper use of God's names. And he then said, "May those who use the power of God's names come to naught." And with that, all of the amulets that the Baal Shem Tov made suddenly became ineffective. It was quite strange. Now, the Baal Shem Tov heard that suddenly his amulets no longer worked. They were ineffective. And he asked around and discovered that it was Reb Yitzchak's words that caused this to be a problem. Well, the Baal Shem Tov then used his extreme powers of concentration, and he caused Reb Yitzchak to be confused as to what day of the week it was. Now, Reb Yitzchak was traveling at this time, and he arrived in the Baal Shem Tov's hometown of Mizbuz, and thinking that it was Thursday when he actually arrived on Friday, he went to the inn, had himself a bite to eat, laid down and took a nap. He was in no hurry since it was Thursday. When he awoke from his nap, however, he was astonished to see that everybody was running around in the inn preparing for the Sabbath, preparing for Shabbos. "Why are you running around preparing for Shabbos when it is only Thursday afternoon?" He asked the people, and the innkeeper responded, "Rabbi, no, Rabbi, it's actually Friday afternoon, and Shabbos is almost upon us." Well, Reb Yitzchak couldn't believe that this was Friday afternoon, and he didn't believe it, and he went outside, and when he went outside, he saw all of the Jews of the town rushing about, trying to complete their last-minute preparations for the Shabbos. Well, now he believed that it really was Friday afternoon. So he hurried back to the inn so that he could complete his own preparations for Shabbos. But he was interrupted. He was interrupted by a visitor, none other than the Baal Shem Tov himself. Reb Yitzhak, would you come and spend Shabbos with me? But Rabbi Israel, I have already arranged with the innkeeper for my needs. I've already spoken to the innkeeper, and he has no problem with you making a last-minute change in your plans. But it's my custom that on Shabbos I eat until I'm sated, and I'm not sure that you will have enough food for me. Don't worry, I've prepared plenty of food. Well, finally Reb Yitzchak ran out of excuses, and he had to accept the Baal Shem Tov's invitation to come to his house for Shabbos. Now, when Reb Yitzchak said that he ate until he was sated, he was not exaggerating. It was his practice that just before Shabbos he would take a large platter, and on the platter was inscribed the name of God. And he would heap food upon this platter. And there was no exaggeration that he would eat and eat and eat, because, you see, he fasted from one Shabbos to the next in preparation. So they went to the Baal Shem Tov's home, and Shabbos was beginning. After they said Kiddush, and he'd washed his hands for the bread, they made the blessings, and he sat down to eat and placed this huge platter before him and commenced to eat the Shabbos meal. And he ate until there was nothing left on the platter, and the food that had been prepared for the next day's lunch was brought and placed before him, and he ate all of that. And then he turned to the Baal Shem Tov. Is there any more food? I'm still hungry. I'm sorry, Reb Yitzchak, but there is no more food left in the house. Well, Reb Yitzchak was very displeased. I told you that I would eat a lot of food, that it was my custom. And now I find that I've eaten what is here and there's no more food left, and I'm still hungry. I'm sorry, Reb Yitzchak. I anticipated and expected one of the angels, but I did not anticipate a seraph arriving. The seraphim are fiery angels that consume everything in their path. And this is what the Baal Shem Tov felt about Reb Yitzchak. So, after Shabbos was over, the Baal Shem Tov then came before Reb Yitzchak. He said, Reb Yitzchak, why did you render all of my cameos ineffective? Because it's not a proper use of the name of God to put the name of God inside an amulet to cause miracles and healings. But Reb Yitzchak, I don't put a name of God in the amulet. I only write my own name, Yisrael ben Sarah, in the amulet. Well, Reb Yitzchak couldn't believe this. Until the Baal Shem Tov took one of his amulets and opened it up and showed him that inside was only, in fact, his own name. And then Reb Yitzchak understood. And he said, Almighty God, if such wonders can come from this man's name alone, why should you mind? And at that moment, all of the cameos, the amulets of the Baal Shem Tov again became very effective and worked wondrously. And so it was. Shalom.